and telling myself and making a promise to myself that I will never let myself be defined by one thing ever again, and I will never let anyone else define me. I'm gonna be 31 in December, so by the time I hopefully fingers everything crossed, I'll be 31, which is crazy. I don't know how that's possible. You know, I have just continued to fall more and more and more in love with this sport. I continue to set these goals that I am determined to achieve, that I want to achieve, and different experiences that I want to have. So the goals for me started to shift as I got older, where it didn't, you know, of course, point blank, anytime, we're a competitor. Anytime you go to an event, you want to win. You want to be on that podium, you want to hear your national anthem. That is like base. Like, no matter what, that's goal. But on top of that, those goals were, especially in the last 4 years, started to be a little different. So for me, it became the first year after the Olympics, our US championships were in San Jose. I, in 2018, had the worst skate of my life, and I didn't make the 2018 Olympic team. And I, no offense to the Sharks, hated that rink. And I was like, I never want to go back. I was like, I had so much trauma. And at that point now, 5 years later, the US championships were going to be back in San Jose. And there was a part of me that was like, I don't want to live and be afraid of that place any longer. I don't want to hold on to that. I don't want to have that trauma, that frustration. I don't want to hold on to those memories anymore. And so it started out with like, I looked at my coach and I was like, okay, let's do nationals. I didn't do the full season. I just did nationals, ended up second, wiped that slate clean, competed at the World Championships, ended up fifth. And I was like, we kind of did a half season. That was manageable. And I was like, okay, so the next year I continued to do a lot more shows. I worked professionally. I got to do some media. I got to do, I choreographed a couple of the other skaters' programs and coached a little bit and traveled. And so my season shifted a bit. And I was like, okay, let me try another kind of partial season. Ended up second at nationals, went to Worlds, ended up fifth. And I was like, okay. And then it became, the next goal was, wait, the next year the Worlds are in Boston. Like, wait, I've never done a home Worlds. The goal was like, oh my gosh, how could I give up? Not saying give up, but how could I stop now? Like, there's a possibility that like I could compete at a home Worlds. And I was like, I know that if I walk away now, I'm gonna look back and regret the fact that I didn't even give it a shot. Whether or not I achieved it, I was like, I will look back and it will like haunt me. And so I was like, okay. And because I knew, obviously the year after that was the Olympic season, I said to my coach, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to do a full season, because if we decide to do another year after this, the year leading up to the US Worlds, then I want to know, how did it feel to do a full season? I don't want to kind of throw it all in the Olympic year. I want to have done my research. I want to know how the season felt. Was it too much? Do I need to pull back the following year? And we did it. We did the full season. Lots of highs, lots of lows, figured it out. Ended at that World Championships in Boston. And what was so exciting, we walked away with the 3 spots for the US team for the men. And here we are a few months later, really kind of jump-starting this Olympic season. And I just could not be more excited to just give it my best shot. And I think also too, I've been through now, this will be my 4th Olympic cycle. I've made teams, I've not made teams, and there's not that fear of, what if I don't make it? Okay, so I don't make it. Like, yeah, will I be disappointed? Of course. Will I have a good emotional cry? Absolutely. That said, I know I'm gonna survive, I'm gonna move forward, I'm just so proud of everything that I've accomplished and what I've gotten to do, and it's just, yeah, part of that journey and part of that process. The Olympics in Italy, like, no, point blank, like, how do you, like, oh, yeah, just casual. We're going to Milan. You know, like, no, this, oh my God, no. I just cannot wait. It's like and also when you think about like skating too, it's like the capital of fashion and art and come on, what's more art, fashion than skating? The pressure doesn't go away. I put so much pressure on myself to achieve these goals, to represent the US to the very best of my ability. I go into every event expecting excellence from myself, and I expect that in practice and training every step of the way. So that pressure and that anxiety, and I still have sleepless nights. I still get very like emotional. You should see my notes app. I write these notes during competition weeks. I'm happy to read them too if you want. Like I'm an open book. But I like have these like notes app where I like honestly like write my deepest, darkest fears going into an event. You're like, why am I so stressed out? Like, why do I do this to myself? And like, of course, like I know I love it, but it is also psychological torture. Like that's just part of sport. That's what we do to ourselves. We like work ourselves to the bone, and then we're like, oh my God, it comes down to this one moment, and we're like, why? So the pressure doesn't go away whatsoever. But this idea for me is, so in 2018, when I had, you know, my implosion, and it really was an implosion, and I took to the ice when I even went to compete at the US Championships that year, and I really felt like a shell of a person. I had let what others thought of me and what they thought I could or couldn't do define who I was. And I let, you know, especially at that point, this element that I had been working profusely on day in and day out, define whether I was a success or a failure. And I remember being at such a low, being there, being shattered, both emotionally, mentally, and physically, and telling myself and making a promise to myself that I will never let myself be defined by one thing ever again, and I will never let anyone else define me. And because of that, that is what I let go of. That is something, so while the pressure is still there, whether I had a great skate or whether I left and got off the ice soaked because I spent so much time on the ground, it did not define who I was, and that was freeing. And I think that is a huge weight off my shoulders that I didn't know I was carrying. And so that is what has changed over these years. So, you know, even we talked about the US Championships being back in San Jose. The success for me was going and facing my fear and not allowing it to dictate this continued trauma loop in my head. It was like, no, I am gonna stand up to this demon. Yes, of course, I also wanted to skate well. I also wanted to, you know, medal. I wanted to be on the, you know, on the world team, but that was more important in terms of success goes. You know, of course, like I said, I hold that other success it's very, very important to me as well. But I can also hold those two things simultaneously and be proud of getting onto that ice and performing. And also, if I don't perform the way that I wanted to, gosh, that sucks and that hurts, but I can still be proud of one thing. And I think that's something that I've carried on with me through the rest of my career.
Having some forgiveness for yourself.
Absolutely. Having forgiveness and understanding, and also just believing that I gave everything that I had and being proud of that, while obviously that's not always going to result in perfect performances, and knowing that like the messiness, the vulnerability, like that's also something that makes us so special, and that's also such huge teachable moments, not for me, but also for the audience. And yeah, we're athletes. We're not perfect. We're messy. We're vulnerable. We struggle, and we persevere, and it's so much more beautiful, and our sport's so much more beautiful when not just that next generation of skaters can see that, but when the audience at large can also see that. My first experience of this, I was 11 years old. No, wait, let me think. I was 10 years old. 10 years old, and I had this opportunity to go to Belgium. And it was like they called it like a developmental international event. And I went to Belgium, we were at like some rinky-dink rink, and like, it was just like in the middle of, and my parents went, and they took out like this little boom box afterwards. I won, sorry, let me fast forward. I went to this little event, it was called, Miniman was like the level. It was like, and as an American, I was like, oh my God, I'm competing in Minimen. Like, that's what I thought it was. And nowadays, like, when I've talked to the Belgian skaters, they're like, Minimen? What's Minimen? They're like, it's Minimen. And I was like, oh, like, I had no idea. And I ended up winning. And it was my first time, we were in like the garage of this rink. And they took out a boombox, and it was like, they played the national anthem. The flag was lifted behind me. My parents were in this garage sobbing, crying. And like, it was just like, oh my gosh, just that first taste of like, hey, how did we get here? Like, this is so cool that the sport has taken me to Belgium. I'm like, the flag is behind me. And I think from then on, I just was like, I want this feeling again. And I want to have an opportunity to represent my country. And hear that national anthem being played and have my hand over my heart. And in those moments too, when I look out and I saw my parents, like, it wasn't about me. Like, it wasn't just, like, they are such a huge part of that journey. We were all, I couldn't be there without them. I always think about like that iceberg analogy where like you might just see the tip of the iceberg out of the water, and yeah, that might be me on a podium or my teammates on a podium with the flag behind them, but like there is a army of people that got us to that point that are lifting us up above the surface so that we can float and we can thrive, and it's because of them that we're there. So when I stand on top of that podium, it's not about me. It's about everybody who helped me get to that point, and it's about representing my country to the very, very best of my ability. And it's something that I don't take for granted ever, and the amount of pride that I feel is unmatched. It is such a huge part of this sport. We're in it together. We're not in it alone. Yeah, we might be the only one out on the ice in that moment, but we're pushing each other, and we're all striving to make each other better and the sport better. And I always want to constantly reiterate that whenever I'm anywhere with my teammates, that it's because of the atmosphere that we create, it's because of the support, it's because of that camaraderie, but the shared experience camaraderie. It's like we know what it's like to be in each other's shoes or boots. We understand the stress, the pressure, the highs and the lows, and I really want my teammates to know that there's just this mutual respect and understanding, and it can be vocal, it can be nonverbal, it can also just be like, you have that look, I get it, without saying anything, or that hug of reassurance. And for me, the generation ahead of me that I looked up to had such an impact on my skating career, and I always just wanted to strive to be like them and to be in a place where maybe one day I could inspire that next generation or be there for the next generation as someone that they could go to or be some type of a mentor. And like, it's, you dream about those days, and then like to live them out now and be like, oh my gosh, wait, you see me that way? Like it fills me up with so much pride. And I also don't take that lightly. And I also, complete kind of side note, but when we look at team sports, because I'm gonna just use a different analogy. When we look at team sports, and I'm not trying to say who a star is and who's not a star, but you might have 2-star players on an NBA team or on an NFL team or an NHL team that's just constantly in the media or constantly getting all the attention, or the one that gets the hyped, or the one that's, deemed the captain, or whatever it might be. You have those two players. That does not devalue the rest of the team and what those other players bring to the team. Those star players could not thrive without their teammates, without that support, and without the other people on that team doing their job and showing up day in and day out and keeping whether the morale up, being in their roles, kind of being in the locker room, bringing their talents to the ice. There's, you talk about those players that are just like unbelievable at assists. Like without, maybe they're not the lead goal scorer, but that doesn't devalue what they bring. And I really want, as a teammate, every athlete to know how valuable their place is on this team, regardless of what anyone else thinks, or whether they feel like, oh, I'm the star player, or I can't be that star player because of X, Y, or Z. Like that doesn't devalue what you bring to the sport. Without you in it, you don't understand the impact that you have on the other athletes. I always think about, for me, I may have not been the guy to medal at the World Championships over and over again, but I am the guy that shows up and gets the job done and helps Team USA get those 3 spots for the next year. And I hope that the other athletes can feel, the other men, when they come and they're on a team with me, they feel supported. They feel like, you know what, like I can take risks maybe because we know Jason will be there to be a constant. I'm not saying that's the case in terms of how they feel, but I just hope that they feel a little bit maybe less pressure, or that they can relax a little bit more knowing that I'm on a team. And also the idea of just like being there for them and knowing, hey, we've been through the highs and lows together. But that's, I don't know, for me, yeah, I just want everyone to know that they have a spot, and that our sport is so much better because of everybody in it. And if I can help facilitate that, even just like minutely, that just makes me so happy. I would absolutely love to stay involved in the sport. So I really, honest truth, thought I was gonna skate a little bit, compete, move on with my life. And when I say move on with my life, just move on to something completely different. I was gonna go to college, I was gonna do a completely separate career. I have fallen in love and back in love and have learned so much and have learned from such incredible people throughout my career. And now looking back, it's been over 25 years in this sport. I can't even fathom walking away. In terms of course, I can wrap my head around walking away competing. That I can wrap my head around. But walking away from the sport at large, I cannot. And so I definitely want to stay involved, whether that's mentoring, whether that's coaching, choreographing, having some role in US figure skating, the International Skating Union, maybe in media, bringing athlete stories to life. I really see myself and really hope that my future has many more years, or a few more decades of skating in them. But yeah, not in the competition realm, but in so many different aspects that I hope to be part of.